Lindsay. All right, let's start with the top of the news because this is quite the conversation that I think many of you are having, and it's a very important dialogue to be had. Protesters targeted the Andrew Jackson statue near the White House in Washington, D.C. yesterday. They tried to tear down the monument using a chain you see there, but they were ultimately stopped by police. Now, it's all because of the former president's responsibility for the Trail of Tears policy that either displaced tens of thousands of Native Americans from their lands or cost tens of thousands of Native Americans their lives. Now, protesters also tried to set up a Black House autonomous zone in the area, vandalizing a church. This follows other monuments being targeted that are not Confederate leaders, like this George Washington statue, due to the fact that he was too a slave owner. Now, the president says he has authorized federal law enforcement officials to arrest anyone who is seen vandalizing or tearing down monuments on federal property with up to 10 years in prison. All right. I know that this is a very divisive topic because I tried to explore what everyone is saying on social media. You got one side, Lindsay, that is saying that these monuments need to go. These are people that owned human beings, right? I mean, there's even records of Andrew Jackson that beat his slaves. He had 161 slaves. He went from poverty to pure wealth because of his slaves. But then you have the other side saying these are monuments. You can't just vandalize them. What would you say to that, Lindsay?
Right. I think this is a culmination of things. You know, institutional racism has been running rampant in our country forever, and people look at these statues as a way to lionize some of that bigotry. And I think some people are tired of it. And at the same time that I understand that we don't want to see these images, is there are people that are saying, yes, I would like to rename, people that are leaders that are saying, yes, we can rename some of these military bases. Yes, we can take down some of these statues. So there are ways to go about these things and actually put policies in place as opposed to pulling them down, because now I think we're kind of losing the message with tearing some of these things down.
What do you think, Erica?
I think it's crazy that it's been almost 2 years since we first started having this conversation on this show. And realistically, nothing has changed. It's just that now people can't act as though they don't understand what the issue is. When we first started having this conversation, monuments were being pulled down in the South. You have to understand that these are historical reminders of pain, suffering, and oppression. Now, it's not as though it's like a historical reminder that you go somewhere specific, which I still would have an issue with, and view this and understand the history, but they are looming over communities. People have to walk to schools, to church, to work, and have these constant reminders that are looming over them as if the oppression is being celebrated. So you really have to understand why a monument is a really inappropriate symbol for a very painful past in order to have this conversation.
Yeah, I have no problem seeing these monuments removed whatsoever. But please, DBL Nation, we want to hear from you. Make sure that you write in using the hashtag DBLTake, and we would love to continue that conversation with you. So more and more of the country is reopening, but the recent spike in coronavirus cases, and it is a spike, by the way, not a second wave, according to our own Dr. Coley, it's leading many to ask, what should we do to slow the growth? So